The two numbers that really stand out to me, and you've already mentioned these, is terms of Azer growth, only up 29%. They had guided on the previous third quarter that they would hit growth between 30 and 32. The street was actually looking for something north of that. And then, Tim, you mentioned that CapEx number coming in a little bit higher than expected. Of course, there's some rollover going on right now from the Alphabet report that came
Yeah.
out earlier when it really raised concerns about, how much gain are you getting in regards to your AI initiatives versus the amount of CapEx that you're spending. And I was kind of hoping, Carol and Tim, that this Microsoft report might kind of dampen those worries and just kind of blow numbers out. Azer up 34% and so forth. But unfortunately, it was a little bit shy. So I think that conversation is going to have to come back in these concerns that we saw after the Alphabet report are going to reignite again.
Yeah, shares down 6.6% right now. Help us understand exactly, Dan, where we should be seeing the results of Microsoft's investments in AI and in OpenAI. Where should we be looking in this earnings report to see benefits from AI?
Well, foremost is in the data center, right? Tim and Carol, that's been the area where we've seen the biggest amount of spending. That's going to be out of their Azer group, which is encompassed in the umbrella of commercial cloud and intelligent cloud. Those are the two segments that report. Of course, we don't get the hard numbers, we just get a growth rate from Microsoft. That's what they disclose to us. But if you look at intelligent cloud and commercial cloud, they both looks like they both kind of came in line. I noticed the cloud segment was a little bit shy, 3.80 versus 8.4, which I think was the estimate. The other area that we'd like to get a little more clarity on, Tim and Carol, is what's going on with Copilot. That's kind of buried in a lot of different areas, but it's hard to distinguish it. But we're always hoping that Microsoft, maybe on the conference call, will come out and basically release how many seats they've been able to license on that product, because that's another one of their core AI products. We all know that they inked that deal back a year and a half ago with ChatGPT, but that's kind of hard to really figure where that comes into the earnings reports. But the key areas is Azer growth, commercial cloud, intelligent cloud, and then any additional information that we can get on Copilot in terms of additional disclosure. So again, guys, Tim and Carol, it's very difficult, right, to really distinguish. We look at these segment data points that came in on this, headlines coming through. It is very hard to distinguish exactly where all this CapEx is impacting in regards to AI initiatives.
So wait, you just threw a lot at us. So what is the question to Microsoft in the aftermarket or on the analyst call, Dan, to kind of get more clarity to try and figure out if the AI spend is maybe not living up to expectations or it is slowing down?
Right. So if we look back, for example, Carol and Tim, and we look at the last quarter, they came out and specifically said that Azer was positively benefited about 700 basis points compared to 600 basis points in the second quarter in terms of increased growth coming out of the data center unit, which is huge for them. That's a huge recipe for their overall growth. So obviously, Carol and Tim, that's a number that everyone's going to be looking at when they publicly disclose of the 29% growth they did in Azer, what percentage of that or what boost did you get from AI? And in the past, they've disclosed that. So that's a really key number that everyone's going to be queuing in on the conference call.